Hey, everybody. Hope you're doing well. What you're going to hear today on this interview is Deryck Whibley, Sum 41. This is a phoner I did in January 2017. 13 Voices had just come out, and Deryck had undergone kind of a transformation. He had stopped drinking. He was a self-admitted alcoholic for a lot of years, hurt himself in a lot of ways, and he was sober. In fact, this was the first record that he'd ever done sober, and so it was a new experience for him. He also talked about divorce and going through back pain and that kind of thing. Very honest guy, very open guy, certainly a survivor. What else can I tell you? Interesting interview. I mean, very smart guy. One thing that I did want to ask him as sort of a peripheral question, some of you may know that I sell guitar picks on eBay under the name Spirit Nation. That's a plug. And the guitar picks for Sum 41 are some of the dirtiest and foulest guitar picks you will ever see. I mean, they are really, really dirty. I wanted to ask him about that, but didn't get a chance. In any event, take a listen. Let me know what you think, and hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Hi, Deryck.
Thanks. Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great.
Good, man. It's very cool to speak with you, man. I really do appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Deryck, I thought the new record was really, really an exceptional album.
Thanks.
You're really welcome. You know, I mean, sometimes, and this, again, I'm looking from the outside here. Maybe the band sometimes gets dismissed a little too easily as, I don't know, for want of a better description, this punk band. I mean, I just think the music on this record is really, it's just so well done, and the writing and your singing, I mean, do you sometimes think that maybe Sum 41 gets like short shrift sometimes from the press or that kind of thing?
Probably, I guess. I don't know. I just don't, I mean, I guess sometimes people sort of would say, yeah, we're like nothing more than a pop punk band, I guess, where I feel like we've done so much more of the harder style music in our career than pop punk, I guess. But I try not to pay attention to too much of what people say or really write about us because...
You don't? You try to ignore that?
Well, I do for a few reasons. One is, if you're you and other people are writing about you, you're always going to say, well, that's not quite the full story, or
right.
That's not quite true.
Yeah.
It'll never be what you want, right? No matter what. So there's that. But then there's also the fact that I'm so involved in myself already that, like, the last thing I need to be doing is, like, scouring the internet, reading more things about myself.
Gotcha.
I already feel too self-involved.
I gotcha. That's interesting, man.
So, like, in my downtime, I don't need to be like, okay, well, now I'm not working, which is all doing what I want to do in my own work.
Yeah.
I'm just going to come home and just read about myself now.
Yeah. I totally get that. I mean, obviously, you guys have been away for a little while. Well, a fairly, by rock and roll standards, I guess it could be an eternity.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm just kind of wondering, Deryck, I mean, I know some things went on in this 5-year interim. I mean, could you sort of kind of fill us in on kind of, why the hiatus and why we haven't heard from you guys?
Well, I mean, the one thing is, like, in that 5 years, that there's always, if you're not, like, sort of out of those 5 years, 3 years were spent touring the Scream Bloody Murder album.
Oh, I see.
The record came out 5 years ago. We went on tour for 3 years. And then I came off that tour and sort of just went into my, alcoholic abyss, I guess, and sort of came out a year later and then started making a record.
I see.
So, and then that took another year, and then it came out. So that's what happened in the 5 years. It was a lot of work, and then quickly it sort of spiraled out of control, and then kind of got it back on course again.
I understand, and without getting personal, man, but I mean, you talk about touring on a record for 3 years, which most bands would sort of cut off limbs for that opportunity. I mean, I'm just wondering, was the drinking just a thing that you had been doing? Like you said, it kind of got a little heavier. I mean, was it to do with
heavier? Yeah. I mean, there's a few reasons. I mean, they're all simple reasons, but it's partying and alcohol has always been a part of our band from the very beginning. We started so young, and it was just kind of the norm. You didn't really think much of it.
Yeah.
You didn't think anything good or bad of it. It was just part of what you do. And we toured so much, and drinking was part of the show. It's like you always had a couple drinks before you go on, and you always usually have a big party after the show. And that's sort of the cycle, and we never really stopped that cycle. And as for the reason why it got heavier, there's a few simple reasons. I mean, the sort of the cycle of the touring and the work, I started burning out. And as you're burning out, you feel like you need to drink more, or you need help to get through it. So the more you drink more, the more you start feeling like you're burning out. There's that cycle.
Yeah.
And you drink more to try to compensate over that, and then you feel even worse, so you drink more to try to get yourself out of that. There's also I went through a divorce in 2009, so I would say that helped escalate it a little bit more, which, we were also, I was on the road, and it was that cycle of, touring and drinking and blah, 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 all that. And then I hurt my back. So once I was over the divorce pain, I went into physical pain with, I herniated my disc, and I was still trying to tour through it, but it was so painful. But I felt, every time I drink a bit, I don't really feel the pain. So I use that as a way to get through. And, those three things, sort of the grind of touring, the divorce, and the back pain sort of escalated it to a point where when I came off the road, you don't even realize it, but your drinking habit is just like, it's gone through the roof all of a sudden.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. I mean, I guess what was hard for me to understand is, how you can be on the road and kind of doing that physical thing and, having to play guitar and remember the songs and do all that by drinking. I mean, I heard you say, there's a couple drinks before the show, but afterwards there's, things go on. I mean, just preparing for the show the next day and, I mean, how do you do that?
I guess for me, for all of us in the band, is that since we started that way, that was just the way you did it.
I see.
There wasn't like, I don't know, we were just so used to it. That's just kind of what you did. There was never any other way. So we didn't know any other way. Now, since I don't drink and I am more focused on the road, to think about how less focused I was, like, say, the night before a show, it's like complete polar opposite. It's like, but we did it, and it always seemed to be good. It always seemed to be fine. I guess it was just at a certain level. I don't know what it was. It was what we were used to. I don't know.
Right. No, I understand. And again, I'm not trying to pin you down. I'm just wondering how do you, how do you maintain, playing those freaking songs and those guitar parts and doing all that, being the front guy and drinking. It just seems, but, obviously other guys have done it.
Age, you're younger, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's just, I think there's a balance. There's always a balancing act with it, and if you can manage that balancing act, which I think we did very well. I think that really is the key to it, is that it's never too much, but it's never too little.
I gotcha.
It's just that fine line, and I think we really did it well, or at least I did it well for a long time until, like I said, then you added those few things like a divorce and the back pain, and that's what really escalated it for me. But it really got worse when I came off the road. I was able to keep it together to a certain degree while I was working, but once I lost all the responsibility and I didn't have to do anything, and I woke up every day with nowhere to have to be, or that's when it escalated to a point where that's why I went to the hospital.
Gotcha, I understand. So then Screaming Bloody Murder was sort of kind of an album done during that drinking period, and 13 Voices is sort of the first record done sober?
is my sober record. Yeah, first sober record. Everything else had been done through sort of, heavy partying and drinking and, everything that you could imagine, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, Deryck, if you sort of look back at kind of, just say that the Screaming Bloody Murder record to 13 Voices, can you see sort of this new Deryck Whibley guy and, being in the studio and more focused in the songwriting and the vocals? Can you hear it? Can you hear a difference?
I hear a difference on every record. I think I'm always a different person every time I'm making a record. I'm always going through something different. I always feel like it's a whole new way I'm doing an album, no matter what it is. I feel like my voice changes on every single album. Everything always feels a little different. But as far as, even though we partied a lot throughout our career, we always took the music and everything that we did pretty seriously. So, like I said, we were really good at balancing throughout our whole career, and then I sort of lost it near the end. But I think, so even Scream Bloody Murder, which, I was partying through that album, but I always kept it together for the work part of it. It was always the after. It's once you hit stop on the recording and it's time to sort of do whatever you want, well, then things got pretty crazy. And then you'd wake up and then you'd talk about how insane the night was before and sort of have to sometimes deal with what's still left over. And then you get back into the studio again.
I understand. So besides being the first record kind of done sober, this is the first record kind of with Dave and Tom kind of also playing guitars.
Yeah.
The first time you guys were sort of recorded as a five-piece. What has that experience been like? The idea of three guitars is pretty is a cool idea, which can also kind of go bad. It takes a lot of thought and what parts guys are playing and orchestrating. What has that experience been like?
The next record is going to be more is going to be. Dave joined the band sort of halfway through this record already being. And
I see.
So there was already stuff that was done, and I'd been already playing a lot of the stuff. Dave did come in and he played on a lot of stuff, but it was sort of, we didn't all do it all at the same time, which I think the next record, now that we've been on the road, we'd never been on the road together when we started making this record.
Oh, I see.
So now that, we didn't really know who was going to play what and how it was all going to work, and now that it's like we've been doing shows and we've been touring this whole past year, we've kind of like our roles are a little bit more defined on who plays what well, which I think this next record is going to be even better for guitar. But what we did on this record, even though we hadn't really defined who was going to do what, it sort of we sort of gravitate to what we do well. I'm much better as a rhythm player. I don't really do leads. I don't really do riffs. Although I write stuff. I write stuff that I can't necessarily even play that well. So, Tom's really good at a lot of the single note kind of fast riffy kind of stuff, and Dave's really great at solos. So, and I'm better at the rhythm. So we kind of split up things like that.
Interesting. Were you a fan generally of kind of multi-guitar bands?
Well, Iron Maiden, of course. That was the first thing we thought of when Dave was going to come back. It was the first thing I said was it's like Iron Maiden, of course.
That's true. I didn't think
our love for Iron Maiden to another level. So yeah, we've always been heavy into guitar. One of the best things somebody said to me when I first started playing some of the first few songs that I had for this record. So this is now in sort of late 2014, early 2015. I had about 3 or 4 songs. I started playing stuff for a friend of mine, and he just started laughing at the end of the 4 songs. And I was like, "What? Are they no good?" And he goes, "No, I think it's great." He's like, I love that in the time where everybody's trying to incorporate pop music, you're adding more guitars than ever. Well, that's the only kind of music I like.
No, that's absolutely true. Absolutely. So, talking about Dave, Dave had left kind of for those 9 years and comes back for the Chuck record, and then comes back, for in 2015. What was that kind of like? having him back in the fold, as it were.
Oh, it's great. I mean, when he left, it was obviously not something that we really saw coming or wanted to happen, and he didn't leave on bad terms. It was just he had personal things that he wanted to do, and it just sort of made sense. I couldn't really argue with it. Also, at the time, I was somewhat not surprised because of the sort of schedule that we used to keep of this constant album tour, and we toured quite a long time. And, I figured, I sort of chalked it up to, as like, well, this life's not for everybody. So I felt like I understood, he had other reasons, other things that he wanted to do. And we sort of lost touch. We weren't enemies or anything, but we weren't in contact. And then around 2013, when I came off the road from Scream Bloody Murder, him and I started connecting through, just through email and text and phone calls and stuff like that. And we just kind of became friends again. So by 2015, it just got to a point where we were like, well, why are we not playing together anymore?
Yeah.
It was just really simple, and we just thought, well, should we just do the Iron Maiden thing, 3 guitar players? And it was simple as that.
Funny. So when you think about 3 guitar players, you don't think about Leonard Skinner, huh?
No, they're not really on my radar.
I gotcha, man. So besides all those other firsts, 13 Voices is the first record with a new drummer, with Frank, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what has that been like?
I mean, he's such a great drummer that it was really easy. And him and I had been friends for a while, so it was kind of an easy transition, a lot easier than I thought. I was kind of dreading it. I wasn't really sure how it was going to be because I'd only really, we've only had one drummer, and they're very different. It's Steve-O's a great drummer, and Zumo's a great drummer as well. They're just completely different. But his style, it just kind of fit with the music that I happened to be writing. It just sort of like, it almost was too perfect. I don't know. It was just really simple. We just started playing one day, and it just felt right instantly to me.
That is so cool. I mean, Deryck, I mean, we talk about all these, kind of these firsts for the band, and you kind of being away 5 years. I mean, was there any kind of nervousness on your part, trepidation? I mean, I realize you guys had been out there touring, so again, I understand that it's not like you had disappeared, but I mean, the idea of coming back, with the first record in 5 years, I mean, this new set of songs, I mean, any of those kinds of feelings come out?
How it was going to be received?
Yeah, how it was going to be received, and just, I'm back, and, or I'm back with this record, and just, any sense of nervousness or, butterflies, that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, in all honesty, I would say, I was pretty terrified at the beginning. Because it was so new. I mean, I was terrified of a lot of things. I was terrified of, am I going to be able to stay sober? Am I going to enjoy what I do out there? Everything was so new. I mean, was I going to burn out on the road much quicker? Was anyone going to care? Was anyone going to be there? And then there's also then the physical side of when I came out of the hospital, I was in such bad shape that I had severe nerve damage in my feet, and for the longest time I couldn't walk because it felt like I was walking on broken glass.
Oh, that is horrible.
All the time, and I couldn't. It was like you'd almost be in tears just to get up off the couch and go to the bathroom. Like, it was just so painful. And it took a long time for that to go away. It took a really long time. And I wasn't sure if that was going to come back. And because I couldn't walk for so long, I had severe, muscle atrophy. So even once the pain went away, trying to stand up, I couldn't really stand for more than 5 or 10 minutes. So I didn't know if I was going to be able to stand on stage for an hour and a half. So I had all these things that I was terrified about. And I decided to, when I didn't even feel that well, I said yes to doing a tour. It was the Kerrang tour last February. And I felt pretty good, but I wasn't sure. I hadn't really played a full show or done a full tour, really. So I just said yes to it and thought, well, we'll see how it goes. and I gotta try it somehow. And sure enough, after about 3 days, I felt great, felt better than ever, and I just said, all right, book the whole year, I'm good to go.
That is so cool. This is the third album that you've produced, Deryck. I know that Greg Norrie had done those earlier records. I mean, what has that been like for you, sort of, taking over the reins? And I mean, did you sort of pick up on what Greg had been doing on those earlier records, or was it sort of a 180 for you in terms of production and what you wanted the band to sound like?
I would say it's a complete 180. Yeah, I think, I mean, you always learn things going along the way, and you learn things that you like and you learn things you don't like. And, I mean, our very first record we did, well, the first full-length album, All Killer, we did with producer Jerry Finn. So I learned quite a bit from him. And not only that, it's just sort of being in this business and knowing people. I've got a lot of good friends who are producers that, I've learned from along the way. People that I've worked with here and there, been a part of sessions of other people. You just sort of pick things up. And so, I mean, to be honest, I don't really love producing myself. It's just sort of, it comes because, for whatever reason, I just don't feel like I've sort of had that connection with somebody else that I feel like they totally get me and they understand where I'm trying to go. But I usually try to have a producer on every record, and it always ends up falling on my shoulders. Not by choice, though. I usually take meetings with producers every album, and it just doesn't seem to connect.
So are you are you sort of a tough guy to work for then? I mean, what's it like being in Sum 41 and having this Deryck Whibley character producing the band?
No, I think it's actually pretty easy. I don't know. We sort of have a way, I think we don't really take too long to do anything, and everyone sort of has their style. It's pretty simple. Everyone has their thing that they bring that I don't really need to push anybody to do anything. It's just, so I don't really feel like it's that hard to work with me. I feel like the things, when I meet with producers and people, and I have such a clear vision of how I want it to sound and what I want out of it. The reason why I don't work with a producer is because I'm trying to find a partner and a producer that can bring something to the table that I can't already do, and take these songs and push me in a direction that I can't do already, and that's what I don't find. I find people who are like, yeah, this is really great, let's go in and record it, and it's going to sound good, and we're going to do this. I'm like, what do you think about my lyrics? And they say, wow, they're great. Like, okay, cool. What do you think about this, this guitar part? Do you think that riff is cool? Yeah, it's great. Well, I don't need somebody to say it's great. I mean, I wouldn't show it to you if I didn't think it was great.
I got it, yeah. Interesting.
I want somebody to say, you know what, I like that lyric, but I think you can do better. And that would impress me. I would say, okay, now we're getting somewhere. You're going to push me to do something I can't do on my own. And that's what I don't find.
Interesting. You also had Tom Lord, and his last name, Algie?
Tom Lord Algie.
Yeah, mix, obviously his mixes are just insane. I mean, I think the record sounds incredible. I mean, so what was that kind of like, kind of having him, work on the music?
Amazing. Actually, I have nothing but amazing things to say about him. And the experience was better than it's ever been. I've been working with him for years. And it keeps getting better. This record was great because he recently just moved his whole process into very similar to the way that I do it. It's in his house now. He has a full studio built into his house. And I went down and I just lived with him for almost, about 3 weeks. And we would just wake up and, have breakfast and just jump in the studio and start mixing. We were just in our pajamas the whole time,
Wow.
Really, really cool. And that's how I work at home. It's just I have my home studio. I wake up, I go in the studio, I can pop out and do whatever. You're just at home. So it was sort of the same vibe. I left my house and went to his house. And it was cool.
That is very
so
cool.
Creative.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm sorry, Derek, go ahead.
I was going to say he brings an element of that he'll throw in sounds and do things with the mix that I didn't think of.
Gotcha.
That's what I love about working with him.
Yeah, he is just insanely good. God, his
He's
stuff
like,
is...
what if I reverse this part and EQ this to filter it and make it sound really small? I know you had it as a big part, but what about this? And I'm like, that's great. I never thought of that, but it sounds amazing.
Wow. That is so cool, man. Are you talking about your home studio? That's Mr. Biz?
Yes, Studio Mr. Biz.
Mr. Biz. So, so what's that like, Derek? I mean, is that kind of a digital studio you have there? You kind of...
It's funny. I mean, the digital aspect of it is that it's Pro Tools, but everything else, it's pretty analog. I mean, I've got a lot. I probably have too much gear in here. A lot of it's pretty old, and I don't know. I've been collecting gear probably my whole career now. I mean, at least after we started making some money. So, for the past 10, 12 years, I've been sort of collecting mics and guitars and amps and compressors and old mic pre's and kind of everything. So yeah, I got a lot of cool shit in here.
That is so cool. I mean, was there sort of a default kind of a guitar amp rig for you on the record?
No. That's sort of one thing I sort of dropped a long time ago, was having a default rig. On the first 3 albums, right up into Chuck, so I guess that's 4 albums really, I always had just, Dave and I had our sound, and that was it for the whole record, left and right. And but now it's like every song kind of has a new thing. So, I mean, I'm staring at my amps, my main ones that I use right now. And I've got this great old Marshall Super Bass, 72, and it's modified, so it's pretty heavy. It's got a saturation mod. And it's got so much low end. It's so huge because it was a bass amp.
Mm-hmm.
It's 300 watts. And
wow.
I've got this great 83 800 that sounds amazing. That's just stock. Actually, it was a little bit modded when I bought it, but I had my guitar tech just put it back to stock 1983 800. That sounds great. I've got a 79 JMP. Jubilee. I've got the 62 AC30 that I use a lot. And then for some of the heavier stuff that I like to fold into the Marshall stuff, I've got a Diesel Herbert that I'll kind of fold in as well. I've got a VHT Pitbull. I just kind of bring those in for some of the metal stuff.
That is so cool, man. And what about some of the guitars?
A lot of Gibson and Fender, I've got and Gretsch, but my main guitar the one thing that I always do use for my rhythms that stays on pretty much every song is, I have a 59 reissue that I got in 2001, and that Les Paul's just unbelievable. And I played a lot of 59 reissues, but for some reason that one, in that year, 2001, they made some really great ones. I haven't heard one that beats mine yet. So I even have another one that I got and I've never played because it doesn't sound as good as my my other 59. But I got another one. I plugged it in. I'm like, no, it doesn't sound as good, and it just sat in the case for the past 10 years now. It's never been played ever again.
Wow.
But I got it because I thought it was cool. It's there's only 25 of them ever made with this finish, and it's a beautiful guitar, and I just wish it sounded as good because it's so gorgeous. But now it just sits in the case, and it's just one of 25. So I guess that's cool too, kind of.
Gotcha, absolutely. Just looking at some of the songs here for just a minute, Derek. I mean, I thought "War," excuse me, was just a really incredible song.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, really, really good song. Again, one of those. I don't know if surprising is the right word, but you think of Sum 41, and you don't really think of halftime grooves and kind of pianos and these amazing backing vocals. I mean, when you're writing a song like that, do you have a sense that this is something that like you said, you try to bring something different to each record? I mean, do you have a sense that this is something that I haven't done before, and this is an arrangement that I haven't really touched on before, and that kind of thing?
I do, yeah. With that song particularly, yes. I thought, well, this sounds different than anything I've ever done before, and I like that. But then you also, with any time you do something like that, you're always going to have people saying, they don't like that.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, it always has a mixed reaction. People either love it, and then you have some people who are like, "Fuck this sucks. This was not what I was expecting."
Gotcha. And then God Save Us All, Death to Pop. I mean,
Yep.
really, Deryck, what's on your mind? I mean, tell me really what you're trying to say here.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I just really don't like pop music, and especially the way what we hear so much right now. Well, I'm fortunate. I really don't hear it that much because I really avoid it because I don't really listen to radio, and there's no like MTV videos and stuff like that anymore. So you kind of you have to kind of find music these days. You know, I don't go to nightclubs, so I don't hear this kind of shit anymore. But yeah, so I get to live in my own sort of Rolling Stones, Aerosmith, Tom Petty kind of world. You know, Metallica and whatever I feel like listening to. But yeah, I don't really love that pop is sort of the popular music, and people really consume it as like the main source, the main form of music.
Right, no, they really do. I was just looking up, you know, Polestar just came out with their, you know, all their year-end charts and the biggest tours, and, you know, I mean, the top 10 tours are Rihanna, Beyonce, Katy Perry, and Madonna. I mean, you know, I guess, I mean, I totally agree with you. In fact, you know, at the beginning of the video for God Save Us, you say, you know, part of what it says, you know, I don't think you feel anything with pop. I totally agree with you. On the other side of that is that, you know, a lot of these songs, you know, I mean, these guys who are writing these songs are pretty gifted songwriters. And, you know, I mean, there's some pretty good writing, you know, going on in some of these songs. But yeah, it just tends to come out so kind of, yeah, manufactured and
well, it's also like the production of it all and just sort of the delivery of it all.
Exactly, yeah.
That the people singing it have nothing to do with it, and they just don't have, to me, a lot of them, and not all of them, but a lot of them, the singers don't have that kind of thing. Like, you know, Sinatra didn't write his own songs, but he's the voice, and it just is, he's got so much emotion in it and so much experience in his voice that, like, sure, he doesn't need to write the songs. He's great. Where I don't feel like in pop, the people who sing the songs that don't write them, they don't really grab me. There's no connection for me there.
I understand that.
And whether it's just the production of it, the way it sounds, it's just, I don't feel anything. And except for anger.
So if Adele asks you to open up for her, you're not going to do it?
Well, I guess, no, I wouldn't. But I mean, I would say, like, she's got a great voice, you know, like, they're not all bad. And I guess I wouldn't really call her pop. I don't know what you'd call her.
No, that's true. She's almost like R&B
like adult
or
contemporary or something.
Yeah. I'm just goofing with you. You know that I'm just.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, man. So everything else is good with you, man. I mean, you feel good, and you've been sober, and the record's doing good, and you know you kind of hit on all the bases you wanted to with this new record, and.
I think you always get as close as, I mean, I try to always go further than I think I always get, but you get close, you know. I would have loved more time, but you always want more time. Like, if you just had another 6 months, what I could have done. But, you know, it was just getting to that point of, like, it's got to come out now. Like, it's now or never.
Gotcha. Deryck, just 3 more minutes. There's some readers' questions here that I have to ask you.
Sure.
So, man, you know, just have fun with them. Anything you don't want to answer is too outside. Just let it go. What is an instrument that you can't play but would love to learn?
Cello.
Wow. You know, I asked somebody else that question. I think Ben Weinman, and he had said cello as well.
Yeah. It's just it sounds so beautiful. I've always wanted to learn how to. I mean, if I really wanted to, I would probably learn. But I always, you know, enjoy hearing it. But anyway, yeah. I think it's pretty cool.
Interesting. Got any guilty pleasure artists or songs?
No, not. I mean, guilty pleasures, not really. I mean, I think people always are surprised, and even though I already brought them up, is that I'm a huge Frank Sinatra fan. So yeah, I would say Sinatra.
Cool. What is the first record you ever bought?
Appetite for Destruction.
I'm sorry, say it again?
Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
It's so funny. One song you wish you'd written.
Ooh, jeez, I don't know.
I'm guessing there's a lot of them, right? I mean,
Oh, there's got to be so many. I mean, I would just go with Karma Police. I always thought that was such a great one.
cool. Is that for you?
Yeah, can you just hold on one second?
I will. No problem. Thank you, man. Literally 2 more questions here. If you could play one show with any other band, which one would you join and why?
One show with another band. Oh man, I mean,
That could be alive or dead, I guess. The guys could be, if you wanted to go back and play with the Beatles or something.
I was about to say the Doors, but I was going to. Then I also realized I sort of did play with the Doors a little bit. In 2003, it was the Doors with I think it was Ian Astbury's singer or something like that.
Oh, that's cool.
And we did a festival, and they were on it, which is the closest, obviously, I would ever get. But yeah, I don't know. I'll just go with that.
Okay. If you could take one guitar lesson from any guitarist, alive or not, who'd you choose?
Guitar lesson. Oh, I guess you go with Jimmy Page, really.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. And who would be the members of your dream band?
I mean, these are all questions, obviously, I don't really think of on a day-to-day basis.
Nobody does.
Yeah. Well, you say Dave Grohl on drums. See, this kind of question, like, if you really think about it and you really put all these, like, dream players together, they're all going to be, like, such great players in their own thing. Like, the amount of ego that would be going on in this band, it would implode in the first rehearsal.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So that's a good enough answer then. And lastly, do you remember kind of the first guitar you ever got? Kind of like the first,
Yeah. The very first guitar I ever got was it was an Ibanez Roadstar 2 Series.
Wow. That's cool. And what kind of guitar were you playing when Sum 41 first started? Is that what you were playing?
Well, I started playing that, but I mean, I was still in high school when we started Sum 41. So yeah, I was just playing my Ibanez, and by the time, like, we were sort of getting signed, like, I was still early. I think it was still just in high school, maybe. The end of high school, I was playing a Gibson Marauder.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool. Well, Deryck,
That's what I have in my first few videos, like for Fat Lip and In Too Deep and stuff. I'm playing my Gibson Marauder and that. That was what I played for a long time.
Very cool. Very cool. Deryck, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. I think the record's amazing, man. And I wish you all the best and play all the good notes out there, okay?
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Deryck.
All right, cool.
Bye.
Okay, see ya.